Hey guys, welcome to the Rideshare Chaplain. It's Friday evening, and again, I'm not going out tonight. I've made any videos lately because I haven't been feeling well. I was sick uh, whew, since Tuesday. I went to work and then I got real sick. And what really freaked me out is y'all know I love taking trips at the airport. Well, last week, Saturday, I picked up a trip from the airport, right? And finally got access back to the airport lot. I'm happy. I'm going to the airport lot. I'm picking up people out there to make that money, right? So I get this last ride. I said, I'm going to take one more ride this evening. Then I'm going to head in. And I go to pick up this fella. And I get to the pickup lot. And he comes out and he had forgotten his laptop. Not his laptop, his, what is it? Oh boy, iPad. That's what it was. He had forgotten his iPad on the plane. And he says, oh man, I left my iPad. And you know, since it was my last trip, you know, I hadn't had that many trips that evening. And I just wanted to get one more. I wanted to get one more good trip. And I figured at the airport I'd get one downtown, which is always a good run, good fare. So he says, well, you know, and it was the last plane coming in for the evening. So he says, well, can you wait for me? I said, and I normally don't. Guys, I'm telling you, I normally will collect $3.75 and drive, but something told me, you know, I'm going to be a decent guy. You know, he was respectful, and sometimes you just got to go by your gut. You know, so I said, I'll wait for you. So I drove around, and while I'm driving around, the minutes are ticking, okay? Waiting time. And then it took him about 14 minutes to get his iPad back. He called. See, I'm not feeling good. I'm drinking some green tea. Some green tea, guys. Green tea with the great old South Carolina seal. And so anyway, I'm sitting there and waiting. So he finally comes out. He finally comes out. And he's thanking me. He's praising me for being considerate. He said, man, I knew you were going to have to do that. And how many times have passengers told you, I'm going to tip you in the app? I'm going to tip you in the app. So this guy says, well, I'm going to leave you a good tip. I said, okay. And I let it go in one ear and out the other because I've learned most of the time passengers don't do what they say when it comes to tips. So anyway, I felt like I did the right thing anyway, whether he tipped me or not, because, you know, he's a human, I'm a human. So I drove him downtown, and I said, well, where are you coming in from? He said, China. I said, China? He said, yeah, I'm a businessman. I was out there. I was in India, then I flew into China. I was there for a week, and now I'm on my way back home, right? And so I'm thinking, China. So, you know, that's nice. So when I get home, my wife says, did you hear about this new virus that they got out in China, right? That people are dying and stuff like that. So I said, no. So I found out about it. I said, oh, well, you know, hopefully it ain't going to affect me. The next day, man, I started getting sick. And I thought it was crazy. I said, oh, man, I hope I didn't get this virus. And it turns out it's just a common cold. It is respiratory. It hit me, guys. It hit me hard. And I'm healthy. I don't smoke. I don't drink. And, you know, I don't exercise as much as I should and like I used to. But I do exercise, okay? So anyway, I got to get back on it, though, because I need to lose. I got to lose 20 pounds because I'm above my threshold where I want to be. So we're trying to lose some weight. But anyway, I got sick on Tuesday at work. I got real sick, so I haven't been back to work since Tuesday. The day is Friday. So anyway, I'm trying to get myself together to go Uber because tomorrow is Saturday. I want to get out there and make that money maybe tomorrow. But there's something I wanted to talk to y'all about. You know, Uber came out and said that they came out and announced an official decision that no Uber driver can carry a gun. I know it's always been in their TOS. But let's talk about that a minute. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that should be a personal choice of the driver. If we're independent contractors, okay, and we meet our state requirement to carry a weapon, I don't understand why Uber would have a problem. In fact, I don't think it's enforceable legally because it's discriminatory. Let me tell you how I mean when I say discriminatory. Okay, think about this. I work in law enforcement. So law enforcement officers in most states are mandated by law, by their state law, to be armed at all times, on and off duty. You're required to carry a weapon. So how can Uber come behind that and say, well, you can't drive if you carry a weapon? Because now you're discriminating against anybody that works for Uber or who wants to work as an Uber driver, and they're in law enforcement. What you're doing is you're discriminating against a class of people, a large, very large part of the population. There are a lot of cops. There are a lot of law enforcement officers in various, from the state police to correction officers to detention officers to deputy sheriffs, who Uber on the side, and they are armed. Okay? There's no cop going to leave his gun home. I can tell you that. First of all, Uber is actually putting those people at risk, because if they do follow their policy and are not armed and they get out there and something happens, they have a duty to protect the public, and they can't just turn a blind eye to see something going on. Can't do that. So just a thought about Uber's law. I think they're gonna have to go back and visit that. I think that will probably end up being tested in court at some point. At some point, they're gonna deactivate a police officer, a law enforcement officer, for carrying a weapon. And I think they will lose that one big time in court, because you cannot supersede Uber state law, and you can't discriminate against a class of people, which law enforcement is a class of people. You got law enforcement officers out there, and they have a right to be able to drive and be rideshare drivers just like anybody else. But they have a duty to be armed. So your decision to say no officer can carry arm. And then another thing, what gives Uber the right? Because they claim that we're independent contractors, so they're not going to take any responsibility for your family if you get killed, to take care of your kids, to pay off your bills, your home, your mortgage, and stuff like that. Whereas if you had a weapon, maybe you'd still be here. You know, we had a slogan back in the day: I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Bottom line is, everybody has to do what's in their own conscience. I'm not going to say whether I carry a weapon or I don't carry a weapon. But I will say this: I will do what's necessary to protect me and protect my life. And maybe in some cases, maybe even the passenger's life. You don't know what you're going to get into out there. So I think Uber needs to reevaluate that policy. I think that's one area they hadn't thought about, because they're so busy just trying to cover their behinds. They're not looking after our behinds. But I will say this: I believe that if you're going to carry a weapon, you need to be trained. You need to take a class. Now, I can see them requiring that person that does carry a weapon have to provide them with a certificate of training, say gun safety, understand, have a knowledge of the concealed weapon laws in your state, knowing how to properly conceal a weapon. And I will say this to you: if you do decide to carry a weapon, or if you are carrying a weapon and you have a concealed weapon, listen, do not ever pull your gun out as a threat. You should only pull that gun out if you intend to use it. Don't be pulling out trying to scare nobody or nothing like that. If you pull that gun out, you better be ready to use it. And so what I'm saying is that everybody probably shouldn't carry a weapon. But I will tell you that in this day, in this climate, with the way people are being killed, these guys have no conscience. I think that we have a right under the Constitution, Second Amendment, to be armed. Okay? Now, if you're a law-abiding citizen, you obey the laws of the land. And guys, you have to use common sense, okay? Most of the guys I know, cops, they conceal their weapon on them. Nobody knows they have a weapon. And they've been driving Uber for who knows how long. So are they going to start deactivating people because they're police officers and they're carrying a weapon? Are they going to tell police officers, And law enforcement officers, they can't carry weapons. You see where I'm going with this? So if you can't discriminate against police officers, then you can't discriminate against law-abiding citizens. If in our country there is a constitutional right for us to bear arms, how is Uber going to take that constitutional right away? I think that they're in violation of Constitution and a violation of our civil rights. One of our civil rights is to the Second Amendment, to protect ourselves. So I think that's going to end up getting tested in court, and I think in the long run, Uber will lose a lot of money, and I think they need to evaluate. If we're truly independent contractors, then Uber, you have to get them to sign a release or whatever it is. You can probably require some kind of training that they can show that they've been trained, properly trained and all like that, but you're not going to be able to tell people they can't be armed. Okay, you know, because you have no way to stop the passengers from getting in our cars armed. We don't know whether the guy getting in our car has a gun or not. And they're sitting behind us. So we're already at a disadvantage. When they get in the car, we don't know who's getting in our car, because Uber, you do not do background checks on passengers. You don't screen passengers. You don't even require a passenger to give correct ID. You don't even require passengers to give correct ID. But yet you expect the drivers to go out there and not to be able to protect themselves, which tells me you don't care about your drivers. Okay? So sometimes I like driving for Uber, but listen, if I get deactivated because I defended myself, I'll take that deactivation because I get to go home every night. I get to see my wife again and my grandkids. I'll take that. But let me tell you something, guys. If you carry a weapon, or if you intend on carrying a weapon, number one, make sure you got a good holster so the weapon is secure on your person. Nobody can see it. Okay? Don't be flashing it. Don't be stupid. Don't pull it out in a fit of rage just because you get scared. If you get scared because somebody says something to you or whatever, then you probably shouldn't be doing rideshare. Okay? You got to know how to talk to people. And you got to be cognizant of your surroundings and be aware when you're supposed to use, when you pull out a weapon as a last resort. If you think your life is in danger, if you think you're about to be killed, then that's the time to pull out a weapon. But when you pull it, be prepared to use it. You should never pull a weapon unless you're prepared to use it. Okay? And that's my video. I hope to be back out there. Pray for me. I've been sick, man. This stuff has been kicking my butt. I'm sorry I hadn't made a video lately, but I wanted to say something about those gun laws and about the guns. What's your state? You know, comment and like my channel, please. I get a lot of people looking at it, but nobody's liking or leaving comments. What do you think about this gun law thing? Honestly, I think every driver should follow their conscience. And if you feel like you can carry a weapon, you feel like you can get the training and be a responsible person, and you're a law-abiding citizen and you can carry it, then as long as you get trained and you understand the consequences of carrying a weapon, there's a huge responsibility. That weapon controls you. You know, when you off duty and you got a gun, you always think, okay, where I'm gonna put my gun? You know, you take the kids to the beach. Oh, I got find a place to put my gun. You go to a restaurant. You're always aware of that gun being on you. Okay, so you have to always be cognizant of the fact that you have a responsibility. You can't afford that gun to get in anybody else's hands. So like I say, depending on how you are physically, if you're not in good physical shape and you pull a gun and somebody wrestles it from you, like I say, you need to have the proper training. And if you pull it, it cannot be a joke. Because if you have to ever take anybody's life, that's something that will stick with you for the rest of your life. Everybody can't carry a gun. Even though you might have the right to. Everybody can't handle the mentality of being able to carry a gun, because it takes a certain mentality to walk around with a weapon. Not only responsibility, but you got to be responsible for yourself, your family, and for the other people around you. It's not a light decision. But if you're out here and you driving wee hours in the morning and you going in the rough areas of town wherever you live, then I would tell you, if you're not preparing to defend yourself, you crazy. Okay, you need to go to the range. You need to train. Pay somebody to train you if you have to. Learn, get the right kind of holsters. Holsters are important. You don't have the right kind of holsters. They got holsters now where you can conceal a weapon. Nobody even know you have it. Okay, And I'm just saying, if you're going to carry, make sure you're properly trained and you're aware, and you can operate that gun and change magazines out in your sleep. I mean, to the point where you can do it blindfolded if you had to. Practice, practice, practice. It's not something that you just go buy a gun one day and start carrying it. No. You need to train. And then also be aware, whenever you're approached by law enforcement and you have a weapon on you and you have your concealed weapon permit, you always inform the officer when they walk up to your car, sir, I'm a concealed weapon holder. My gun is in my glove box. My gun is on my side. Although the gun on your whip box, it'll be too late if it's in there. You know, it ain't gonna do you any good. And I'm just gonna say, if you're gonna be out there in the middle of the night, because guys, we've had Uber drivers killed, right? So Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, you got to use good common sense. And I think it's a deterrent if they don't know. And don't ever, if a passenger asks you, you carrying a gun? That's none of their business. Don't answer that question. You know, first of all, if you're not, why are they asking that question? I had a guy one night got in the car, do you carry a gun? I said, oh, that's a funny question for you to ask me. Why are you asking me that? You know, that made me I was watching him the whole trip, like, what's he about? So in South Carolina, oh, and video camera. Yeah, make sure you always have your video camera going, and make sure you keep those recordings for at least 35, 40 days. I recommend 40 days. Take that chip out every night and download them onto your computer and put the date between this date and this date and keep those videos, because people have up to 30 days to file a complaint against you with Uber, Lyft, or whatever. And I hope that things get better, man. For us Lyft drivers. By the way, I have requested an appointment with Tim Scott. He is Senator Tim Scott is my senator from my state where I live. And so I've requested a meeting to talk about AB 5 in South Carolina. And I had done a video, Bring AB 5 Alive, in South Carolina. And so I guess they're real busy with impeachment nonsense going on in DC and all that crap going on. And so at some point, guys, I'm going to come to you with a video about my meeting with Tim Scott. And I'm going to see if he'll do a video with me. You know, I'm going to ask him, how do you feel about AB 5? You know, this is a right to work state, so we may have a different version of what you guys are going to have out there in California. But I need some of you drivers out there in South Carolina to get in touch with me, okay? And let me know that you want to help me, and let's get organized, and let's go to the State House. And maybe some of y'all can go with me when I go to this meeting. I'd like at least 2 or 3 drivers, okay? Senior drivers who had experience. And so, you know, at least a year driving, okay? Or 2 years or more. And let's get together and talk, because we want to put a strategy together. And I think if I have more than not just me going, I'd like to have a couple of more of y'all go with me with Tim Scott's office. And let's talk about this AB 5 and see what kind of version. So we got to do our homework. So I got a copy, we got to study it and see what parts can we apply in South Carolina. All right, you guys listen. I've been talking 18 minutes now and 37 seconds. Listen. I want you to be blessed, and you're rising up and you're laying down. Pray for me. I'm feeling better today than I did yesterday. And thank God I'm on this on top of the earth and not below the earth. And hopefully I'll be feeling better next week and get back on schedule and be out there driving. And I want you guys to be safe out there. We got the Super Bowl weekend, Super Bowl Sunday coming up. You know, it's going to be a lot of drunks out there. Be careful. Watch your back. Make sure your doors are locked when you pull up. And identify who the person is getting in your car and how many people in their party and all that. Y'all know the rules. Y'all know what time it is. Just be careful out there. And, but if you're going to carry a weapon, you know, for me, if you're not breaking the law, you're not breaking state law, and your conscience tells you should be armed, and I'm telling you, if you're out there late at night in the bad areas, picking up passengers, yeah, you need to have something to protect yourselves. One of the things, I'll show you a video of some of the things, like there's different kinds of mace you can carry. There's something called a Coubertin pen, and it has a glass breaker on one end. It looks just like a regular pen, and it can be used as a weapon. And I'll show you some of those things that you could have, just, and you hope, pray to God, you never need any of this stuff. But if something should happen, you want to be able to protect yourself. So learn what your laws are there in South Carolina. And that's something that that Uber's going to have to deal with. They just want to come out and try to control all the drivers and say, oh, you can't drive, you can't have a gun. Well, that's discriminatory, because some people are required to carry guns by their day job. And if we're independent contractors, that's even more discriminatory, because if I carry the gun, I bear the responsibility of that gun. Seems simple to me that they could have an identification that if you elect to carry a gun, they could ask that question. They can't really stop you. They can say it's their policy for you not to. Wouldn't it be better if they just said, okay, here's an identification, you're carrying a gun, you take full responsibility for carrying that weapon. Uber will bear no responsibility. Exempt themselves from any responsibility, liability, because they do that anyway. They need to do something like that. But to just come out arbitrarily and say you can't carry a gun, that's crazy. Okay, you can say it, but I guarantee you there are people out there carrying guns. All right, God bless you, and take care. And until next time, like, subscribe, and pray for me that I get better. God bless. Bye-bye.